The Searchers is a 1956 Western film directed by John Ford, based on a 1954 novel written by Alan LeMay. It stars John Wayne as a middle-aged Civil War veteran who spends years searching for his kidnapped niece, played by Natalie Wood, accompanied by his adopted nephew, played by Jeffrey Hunter. The film was a commercial success, and since its release, it has been considered a masterpiece, one of the greatest and most influential films ever made. Though primarily set on the plains of northwest Texas, it was actually filmed in Monument Valley, Arizona. Additional scenes were shot in Mexican Hat, Utah, as well as Bronson Canyon and Griffith Park in Los Angeles. The movie was filmed in widescreen format, and the director originally wanted to cast Fess Parker, whose performances as Davy Crockett on television had sparked a national craze. Ford wanted Parker for Jeffrey Hunter's role, but Walt Disney, with whom Parker was under contract, refused to allow it and never even informed Parker of the offer. Looking back, Parker said it was one of the worst career moves that stifled his opportunities. Several film critics have suggested that the movie was inspired by the 1836 kidnapping of 9-year-old Cynthia and Parker by Comanche warriors who raided her family's home at Fort Parker, Texas. She spent 24 years with the Comanche, married a war chief, and had 3 children, only to be rescued against her will by the Texas Rangers. In this revered Western, Ethan Edwards, played by John Wayne, returns home to Texas after the Civil War. When his brother's family members are killed or kidnapped by the Comanche, he vows to track down the surviving relatives and bring them home. Eventually, Edwards learns that his niece Debbie, played by Natalie Wood, is alive. Together with his adopted brother, Martin Pauly, played by Jeffrey Hunter, he embarks on a perilous mission to find her, traveling deep into Comanche territory. Natalie Wood was still in high school while filming. On multiple occasions, John Wayne and Jeffrey Hunter had to pick her up from school. Imagine the excitement she must have felt being picked up by such famous movie stars, and the reactions of her classmates. Lana Wood went through a grueling audition process. At one point, she was brought into a room where she was introduced to John Wayne and John Ford. Instead of rehearsing a scripted scene, Ford asked Wayne to lift her up. Wayne grabbed her, stood with her in his arms, and she felt as though he stretched to the ceiling. The whole time, he kept smiling at her. Wayne assured Ford that he had no problem lifting her at all. Director Ford was known for his terrible temper and cruel jokes toward the cast and crew. However, he was unusually kind to John Wayne's son, Patrick Wayne. Almost everyone suffered through Ford's wrath at some point, except Patrick. This made him one of the least popular people on set, as everyone else was being scolded but him. At the time, Patrick thought that's just how movies were made. Since his real father was there with him on set, he found the experience quite easy. He didn't even need to act scared in some scenes, because he genuinely was. This was his first experience in the film industry, and fortunately, John Ford went easy on him for his debut role. Ford later stated that The Searchers inspired Peter Fonda's 1969 film Easy Rider. Fonda described his film as a modern version of John Wayne and Jeffrey Hunter searching for Natalie Wood, with himself as the Duke and Dennis Hopper as his partner. In this analogy, America itself was their Natalie Wood. The nighttime scene where Ethan narrates the discovery and burial of Lucy required multiple takes, but only because Ward Bond needed to shave. John Wayne nailed the scene in one take, but for some unknown reason, the camera suddenly stopped. John Ford became extremely irritated and asked the cameraman what had happened. As the operator turned to respond, the camera's power came back and filming resumed without further issues. It turned out that nothing was actually wrong with the camera. Ward Bond had unplugged it to plug in his electric razor. The crew never told Ford the truth, fearing that it would halt production or that Ford might physically harm Bond in his rage. Years later, after Bond's death, the cameraman revealed the truth to Ford at a Hollywood event. Reportedly, Ford's face turned pale, and he was speechless. Western star Harry Carey had died in 1947. As a tribute, John Ford cast Carey's wife, Olive Carey, as Mrs. Jorgensen, the mother, and their son, Harry Carey Jr., as Brad. In the film's closing scene, John Wayne stands framed in a doorway, holding his right elbow with his left hand, striking a signature pose that Harry Carey often used. Wayne did this as a tribute to Carey while his widow, Olive, watched from off-camera. While filming in the desert, John Ford was stung by a scorpion. Some investors became worried, wondering what they would do if the director died from the sting. John Wayne volunteered to check on him. A few minutes later, Wayne emerged from Ford's trailer and reassured them, "John's fine. It's the scorpion that died." Now, this next fact is so strange that I can't confirm its accuracy, but I found it in my research and thought I'd share it. Reportedly, Buddy Holly and his friends watched The Searchers in a Texas theater in the summer of 1956 and were so struck by John Wayne's repeated phrase, "That'll be the day," that they decided to use it as the title for their now classic rock song, written shortly afterward. One of the most striking revelations related to the film is Lana Wood's claim regarding her sister, Natalie Wood. She alleges that Natalie was assaulted by the famous actor Kirk Douglas while working on The Searchers. Their mother had arranged a meeting with Douglas, hoping it would open doors for Natalie's career. When Natalie returned to the car, she looked completely disheveled and distraught. She and her mother whispered to each other, never discussing the incident until both sisters were adults. At that point, Natalie admitted to Lana that she had been assaulted by Douglas and was deeply terrified and confused. Natalie and their mother decided to stay silent, fearing that publicly accusing Douglas would ruin her Hollywood career. Everyone involved in the incident has since passed away, except Lana, who stands by her story.
Here we end. Thank you for your attention. Like and subscribe. There are many interesting things ahead. Good luck.